Hello everyone, Jose Tonu and Crisis here, and today we are playing F1 Challenge 9902. And you might be thinking, hey, this is not the Mendoza career, what's happening? What's happening is that I am, as you can see, on the A1 ring, which, it's a pretty nice track. I'm turning laps here, and careful, we're out there doing laps. And the reason for this particular video is not for you to watch me doing laps, which are admittedly gonna be terrible. I suspect they will be terrible, but I have a bigger objective in mind, and you have probably noticed it if you read the video title. I have made a thing. I went deep. I'm focused on talking. No, I'm more focused on talking than driving. I just have to give you some background. Now, the first thing you might have noticed is, hey, Jose, why are you playing on Windows mode? And you're probably noticing right now that yes, this is Windows mode. There is a reason for that, and the reason for that is the tool. Let me show you. So, the little tool down there is the You are here for the tool, not for my drive. So that little tool down there is the reason you are here. I have made a thing. So what in the world is this thing? Well, glad you asked. It is a little telemetry tool that won't make you a better driver, it just gives you data. So let's go about its features that it has. First on, why am I being this bad? It's probably the slightly low FPS plus the fact I'm just talking. Anyway, first things first. It has a red bar, and let me stop right here so you can see things right. So it has a red bar, as you can see. This should be red lights like modern F1 cars have right now, but when I designed the original code for this, the Python version, which was whatever was the last version was available on XP, it didn't have like a something that would work to make those lights. So instead, I used a bar. So how this bar works is simple. When the green light in the steering wheel will turn on, is when the blue bar starts. Like green light turns on, blue bar starts. When the yellow light turns on, then the green bar starts. Then as you go up, ideally when the red bar will start is when the orange light will turn on, but the calculation is not quite right. So the orange light turns on a bit earlier. And then the red light turns on about at the middle of the red light in game turns on a little before the in-game red light would turn on. Now let's go back to base speed. The way to slow the game down is using Control G. I was using that to slow the game down to control the reps better and be able to show you how the thing worked. So below that, the red bar, come on, stop understeering, man. Below the red bar is a little RPM counter, which shows you exactly at which RPM the engine is running. These curves, somehow I didn't hit the wall, okay. It is there is the rev counter which shows you exactly at which RPM you are, and then you can see that it turns red when it passes a certain point, somewhere around 16,600 RPM. That's because that's the engine's safe RPM. So if you go above that, the engine starts wearing out faster, and if you are below, the engine wears out slower. So you ideally want to be below that, but at times there's more power above that value than below it. That can be an issue. Let's go back to the pits. Okay, we go back up again. So the ref counter just the ref counter just tells you at which RPM you are on. In the middle of the utility, you can see there is a gear value. It just tells you in which gear you are, second, third, fourth, and so on. You also have neutral and reverse. Around the gear, well, let's not get into that yet. Below the gear value, there is another value which is the speed. That speed is in kilometers an hour because I mostly work on metric units. It shouldn't be that hard to convert kilometers to miles per hour if it were necessary. Around the gear selection, there are a couple values, 4 of them, just around the gear selection. Those are the tire temperatures of each individual tire. On the top you have the front tires, and below you have the rear tires. I really need to learn to talk and drive. Maybe I'll do more of these videos to try and, be able to focus more on the driving as well as the talking, because I'm not used to driving or talking at the same time. Come on, stay on. Stop, please. Stop. Okay. So, okay, we have the tire temperatures, the individual tire temperatures. There are a couple blocks around those temperatures. Those blocks are in blue right now. Those tell you how close you are to the optimal temperature. So if it is blue, it naturally means you are too cold and you need to increase the temperature of the tires. As you can see, the front left and the rear left reach green. That means the tires are close to the optimal temperature and they offer good grip. Clearly the right side is not offering optimal grip, but whatever. So green means you are either 5 degrees below or 5 degrees above, in between those values. And at that moment the tire offers optimal grip, which is pretty good because you know you want the grip. But if you heat up the tires more, like so, like I just did with the front left, I'll try to do it again for, okay, there we go. It is an orange, which means you are starting to heat up the tire way too much and you need to be a bit more careful with it. Otherwise you're gonna start losing grip seriously. And there is an extra level. Let's see if I can get to set level with just nominal driving. I don't think I can. And definitely not that way. Let's just do things for demonstrative purposes. Let's do a few burnouts. So rear left, getting hot. Just a bit more, come on. And as you can see, the rear left is now red, which means it's overheated, and it's now offering a ton less grip. Now both rears are offering a ton less grip. So the purpose of those indicators is to tell you, hey, the tires are not doing too well, just be careful with them wheels, yeah. And yeah, the rears definitely feel a lot more slidey now. Let me go switch the tires, which ideally lets me go talk about the next utility, which is right between the tire temperature values. Let's just burn the tires a bit more. That should do if I don't hit the wall. Okay, didn't hit it hard. In between the tire temperature values. Don't disqualify me, game. Thank you. Please. Okay. So in between the optimal temperature indicators, there's a few percentage values. Those. Please turn on the ref limiter, please. Those are tire wear values. Let me pause for a moment. Those are tire wear values. 100 means a perfectly fresh tire, and 0% means the tire is completely worn and it has exploded. It has failed completely. As you can see, as I'm doing a pit stop, the values went to 100%. That's because the tires are completely fresh. Nice pit stop, boys. The tires are totally fresh, and as I do any kind of activity with them, they start wearing out. As you can see, spun up the rears a bit. Now the rears are a bit worn. Working the fronts a bit, they're starting to wear out. That 99.9% is not significant, but when you reach like 50%, it gets serious. Well, not quite serious, but it's just more annoying. And it's just an easy way to track how much tire wear you have, and not just rely on a bar, which you don't exactly know what it means. Okay, what else we have? Below the speed value, we have a time value, which in this testing session, it tells you how much time you have been testing. If this were like a time session like practice or qualifying, or any other session really, like even the races are actually timed, that will not be counting up, it will be counting down from the race limit or the time limit. So if we went to qualifying, it will start counting down from an hour. I cannot take the 2003 track limits here, there's just not enough tarmac. Anyway, it is just a counter, it tells you when you're on the session, and it is really helpful for timing runs in qualifying, because you don't want to be what, I have enough time, and then you don't really have enough time. You think, hey, you have enough time to do one final lap, but as it happens you don't, and you blow everything. So with that timer you can see exactly how much time you have to do a lap in qualifying. To the full left of the little telemetry tool, we have a value that says testing, that just says in which session I am on. So if we were in free practice 1, it will say free practice 1. If we were on qualifying, it will say qualifying, and so on. It says a different thing for every session. And to the full right, we have a value which is the brake bias indicator. It's just the front bias on the car. So as I lower the bias, the value goes down. As I increase the bias, the value goes up, as you would expect. To the left and at the bottom of the telemetry tool, we have a value that says very dry. That is the track dryness inside the racing line. So as you may know, there are two dryness values in this game. You have inside the racing line and outside the racing line. The left indicator indicates how dry it is inside the racing line, but I don't want to give you the exact values of that, and you probably wouldn't know what to do with them. So instead I gave you a general indicator that tells you how dry it actually is. Very dry means you just use the slicks, then it goes to dry, which tells you, hey, slicks are good, but the track is drying out, the track is getting wet. Then it goes to damp, which tells you, hey, You need to put on intermediate tires. The track is getting wet. You need to be careful. Then it goes up to wet, which tells you to use the wet weather tires. And then it goes up to very wet, which tells you to use the monsoon tires. The way this thing is calibrated, it assumes that you are using base game tires or tires that are based on what the base game did. So if you're using a mod that modifies the way the tires work, like if the intermediate were grip too much, or if the wet grip too much, or whatever, then this utility is not gonna work that well. And at that point, the mod will not work that way. Will not work that well with AI either, because the way this is coded, it shows you what the AI will see, which is if it is very dry, the AI will prefer slicks. If it is damp, the AI will prefer inters, and so on and so forth. And the AI does not adjust to tires. Their values are hard coded. So to the AI, if it is wet, it will just put the wet tires, even if the intermediate will be better in that situation, because the mod is configured that way. So this utility assumes they're using either base game content or a mod that has properly adjusted wet weather tires. So that's on the left. On the right, it tells you the wetness outside of the racing line. So this is mostly to help you decide whenever you actually want to put slicks. Like it looks like there's a racing line, but it is damp outside the racing line. This helps you determine whenever you want slicks or if you want to stay on the inters because it is too wet outside the racing line and you want a safety blanket and so on. And in the middle, at the bottom of this telemetry tool, we have some temperatures. To the left, the one that says 107, that's the optimal temperature for this particular engine. So this particular engine on the Jaguar R1, this little thing right here, the optimal temperature is 107. Why I keep being this late on this corner? Damn it. So that 107 is the optimal temperature for this particular engine, this 4 on the R1. It will change depending on which car you select and which mode you use and so on and so forth. The value on the right is the maximum safe temperature of the engine, so if you go beyond that, the engine is considered to be overheating. So you do not want to go beyond, in this engine's case, 125.1 degrees. And the value in the center, in the middle, is the actual engine temperature as reported by the game. That is a value you could see by default if you turn on this little temperature screen. As you can see, the engine is at 115.16 in game, and it is 117.18 in the telemetry tool. So it just reports the same thing, only with decimals. And you have those two indicators to tell you, hey, you are too cold or too hot. You could use less cooling, you could use more cooling. And it is there to help you use a proper radiator setting. There is one final indicator, but to show you that one, I'm gonna have to stop and over rev the engine. Not only over rev the engine, but also heat up the engine. And for that, I just stop, put neutral, make sure the car is completely stopped. A little trick you can do is, if you want the car to be completely stopped, you touch launch control and then shut it off, and then the car will automatically hold the brakes. So as you can see, engine temperature is rising. My engineer is now telling me that the engine temperature is hot. That should be okay for now, so let's excuse me, let's go ahead and do some laps. Oh dang, it's not cool enough, but that's okay. I needed the engine to be hot so that we can see the final indicator. As you know, or well, if you don't, let me inform you right now, engine wear in this game works in two ways, either by temperature or by revs. If you over rev the car, I know, that's the point. If you over rev the engine, like if you go beyond what the counter says is safe, you are going to wear out the engine more. And if you go beyond the optimal safe temperature, which I also have on this tool, then the engine will wear out faster. But it seems it's not wearing out as fast as I wanted it to wear out. So let's do some more of this until the game plays ball. This might take a while, so I might even cut the recording a bit until the engine decides to do its thing. Come on boy, we don't have that much time. When I reach 150 I'm going to get going again. Okay, there we go. So, this little blue indicator that just turned on, that is an engine wear warning light. So it just tells you when it is black, there's no problem with the engine. The engine is perfectly fine. When it is blue, when it turns on blue, it means the engine is suffering a bit of wear, but it should be perfectly fine. It should finish the race. Unless you're doing some very aggressive things with the engine, like over revving it in downshifts or putting it at high temperature, like I'm doing right now. If it turns on, if it goes orange, then it means the engine it has some significant wear and that you need to start taking care of the engine, like trying to find a way to lower temperature, using less revs, and so on and so forth. If it turns on red, it means you screwed up, the engine is about to blow up, and you might not finish the race unless you seriously take care of the engine, like short shifting, being very careful with the revs. And if you do nothing at that point, this happens. The engine blows up. So that's what that light is supposed to do. It just tells you at which point the engine is, if it is too worn, if it isn't worn, if you can push the engine and so on. If it turns red, it means you are screwed. It should be noted that due to the randomness of the way this game works, at times, and especially on unreliable engines, the blue light or even the orange light might be on already. It just depends. It also depends on the mod. Like on more unreliable engines, you'll notice that every so often the light is on. That's just because the engine is so bad it might blow up anyway. And that's about it for what this tool has to offer. Let's allow the car to go and stop on its own. Let's just do that. Engine will cool off on its own. Let's shut off the engine and so on. So, again, you might be wondering, okay, this is cool, but why are you playing on windowed mode? And the obvious reason is that um, this is a little window. This is not an overlay. This is a window that, I mean, it's always on top and stuff, but uh, originally I would have preferred that. Let's actually go to the bits. Originally, I would have preferred that this thing could work on full screen, like it detected the game window and show itself up as an overlay. But I'm just learning Python, and I'm not that good, at least not good enough to do that just yet. So this is the best we have. Alright, I forgot to mention that. We're actually not done in terms of the features. Yeah, the mouse is here. As you can see, this indicator right here, it shows you which position you're on. In this case, I'm P1 because I'm the only person around. But if we were on an actual session, it will show you that I am in my position relative to the rest of the field. Like if you are 22 cars, it will show, say, P1 of 22 or whatever. It will do that in the other sessions. In testing, it doesn't because there's just one person. Over here to the right, it shows you the fuel tank. It shows you how much fuel you have on the car. In this case, 63 liters because that's what I've loaded the car with. And over here to the right, more right, it's the lap counter, which shows you how much laps you've done. Here's what I was talking about. In this case, if I keep going, the engine is gonna blow up no matter what because the engine is so unreliable. But anyway, over here to the right, as you can see, there's a lap counter. It shows you that I'm on 16 laps. As you can see up there, I'm also on 16 laps. 16, 16. If I were on an actual session with counted laps like qualifying or race, it will show you how many laps are in the race. So in this case, it says 16. If this were a race, a 60 lap race, it will say 16 of 60. Uh, you know what? I could actually show you. Let me load up a. Don't worry, it does that. Let me load up a quick qualifying session here in Austria. So, what I was on. Yeah, it also does this from time to time. That's because, again, the coding could be better. The coding could improve. But while it is loading, it still tries to load the value from the game's memory and it passes out at times. But in game, it doesn't. In gameplay, it doesn't do that. It only does this in loading. So let's wait a bit until the qualifying session is loaded up to show you the way things will work um, at other times. Come on, you can do it. There we go. So we're on qualifying. It is about to rain. Do you know what? That's a very good way to show you what these two boys do. So as you can see, lap 1 of 12. This one showing that I am in P8. Actually, no. No, I haven't set up this thing the way so that it shows you how much position you have. It doesn't matter. So as you can see, these two boys switch to dry because it is raining already. You can still use licks, just they'll grip some. Now it is damp. Now you need intermediate tires. Thank you. Actually, let me shut you up because you are not being useful right now. You are only interfering. So on the left you have here it says you are on the qualifying session because you are actually on the qualifying session. Let me see. Salo actually went out on the he went on the inters. Now it is wet. Now you should put on wet tires. Let me see if someone else knows. There's just Salo out there doing laps on the inters because he went out when it was inter time. So yeah, the lap indicator shows you how many the laps you have and the legal amount of laps. The P8 indicator, the position indicator just shows you in which position you are on. It doesn't show you how many positions are there. I will probably change that. You have the engine wear indicator and you have the track condition indicators, which show you that it is wet on track and off track. I saw a Jordan, and that Frenzen, please, Frenzen is on wet. So this is just basically tells you what the AI is doing, which an actual race engineer will tell you, but the current race engineer doesn't do that. It was actually scripted to tell you that there are some values that tell you, hey, the last race lap that was the fastest was done on this tire, but those values don't work. Maybe they work on like F1 Championship season 2000. The engineer was a lot more talkative back then, but anyway, I digress. I'm going on tangent. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say about this little telemetry tool. That's everything it has to offer. It has to offer ref bars, a ref counter, position, your current fuel, laps, bias, tire status, gears, speed. Here is the time counter counting down how much time there is to the end of the session. Track condition and optimal temperature, maximum temperature, and current temperature of the engine. There you go, friends. And yeah, that this one doesn't update. But anyway, that is about it. Now, I'm thinking of releasing this little tool publicly so that you can mess around with it. It does still need some tweaks. Like for example, over here I want to put some brake wear indicators so that it tells you, hey, the brakes are getting a bit worn, so you should be careful about them, otherwise they're gonna burst. As you know, brake wear in this game is pretty aggressive, and I think in the pits they can see like how much brake wear the car has, or have a way to see how much brake wear the car has, and tell the driver, hey, you need to be ever more careful with the brakes and so on. But this game doesn't. The only idea you have of brake wear is how much the temperatures rise, and that doesn't really help that much. Over here on the left, I wanted to put your current fastest lap and your last lap, but the way, as well as the session's fastest lap, but the way this game stores time is very weird, so that one's gonna take a bit more time. What else do I want to put in? I think that's it, at least for now. Just brake wear indicator, just task manager. Just go down. And yeah, brake wear indicator and lap times, like your best lap and your latest lap. I cannot put the best lap of the session because of the way this game stores lap times, but the other two I think I can. But before I release this publicly, eventually, I wanted to ask, like, what do people think? What do people see? What does people think about this little utility? What they think can be improved? What can be changed? I just want to check the perception of how this tool will work, or what people think about this tool. I think, but of course I'm biased because I built it. I think it is a pretty nifty, cool tool, but I don't know. So I'm here to ask you, what do you think? You think it could be better? You think it could be worse? You think something could improve, and so on and so forth? Leave your opinions in the comments or talk to me in the Discord server, or in Discord. I'm posting this in the F1 Challenge Discord, so people from that Discord is gonna see me and they're gonna know me and whatever. So contact me if you think you have an idea of what to change and so on and so forth. I'm just here checking public opinion. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you on the next one. Goodbye, people.